Formula One is about athletes. 26 drivers from diverse backgrounds who share a dream of becoming world driving champion. It's about fans, millions of them across the globe. Most of all, Formula One is about racing. A contest of speed and daring, probing the limits of a driver's ability, testing the powers of the world's most exotic racing cars, and sometimes going beyond the edge. It's a drama played out on the world's most glittering stages. It's about teams performing together. And one driver working alone, perfecting the skill of controlling a car at speed. It's about the quest to be the fastest, the bravest, the best, to win, to claim the glory and the bounty, to live the life of a rock star or a movie idol, to be the Formula One World Driving Champion. The 1991 Grand Prix of Canada produced the surprise finish of the year. Nigel Mansell motored away from the field, pulling to a 28-second lead. But on the last lap, less than 15 seconds from the checkered flag, Mansell's engine fell silent, and the disbelieving Englishman pulled aside to watch as Brazilian Nelson Piquet splashed the champagne of victory in the yellow of the Benetton Ford team. For Mansell and his crew, there was only the dream of what might have been, a victory and a world championship that slipped away. What a difference a year makes. In 1992, Piquet's rookie effort at Indianapolis and his career ended in a 200-mile-an-hour crash. Meanwhile, Mansell's view of the world came from the top of the podium with a record 5 victories in as many races. 2 weeks ago, the World Championship arrived at Monaco. A weekend full of spills claimed more than half the starting field, including the struggling Ferrari team. Again, Nigel Mansell led by half a minute until a wheel came loose, forcing a pit stop with 7 laps to go. Mansell emerged on the heels of 3-time world champion Ayrton Senna. Over the final lap, Senna blocked Mansell at every turn. At the finish, they were nose to tail, 0.2 of a second apart. Mansell's streak was broken at 5. The victory vaulted the teary-eyed Senna back into the picture for the World Championship. The Formula One season is a 16-race odyssey touching 5 continents. In the course of the journey, the contenders will race over 3,200 miles, travel nearly 100,000, spend more than $500 million, and be watched by more than 2 billion people. ESPN, the world leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Tucked between the mighty St. Lawrence River and Mount Royal, Montreal celebrates its 14th season as home of Round 7 in the World Driving Championship, the Grand Prix of Canada. For the second and final time in 1992, the Grand Prix Circus journeys to North America. In April, it was Mexico City. Today, the heart of English, French, Quebec province in Canada, beautiful Montreal. Hello once again, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to Montreal, where anniversaries are the order of the day. On the happy side, that beautiful city behind me celebrates its 350th birthday this summer, and the celebrations will go on for months. On a sadder note, this is the 10th anniversary of the death of the greatest French-Canadian racing star ever, Gilles Villeneuve, who died in a racing crash at Zolder, Belgium back in 1982. The track we will race on today is named for Villeneuve, and he is memorialized at the start-finish line. Now, when we last left our racing heroes, Nigel Mansell was having things all his way with 5 victories in as many races. But a funny thing happened on the way here to Canada. At a race we were not able to bring you, the Grand Prix of Monaco, Ayrton Senna came through with a lucky but certainly earned victory over Nigel Mansell, while Riccardo Patrese picked up yet another top 3 finish. As a result, points coming into this race show Nigel Mansell with still an overwhelming lead, twice as many points as his runner-up and teammate Riccardo Patrese, while Ayrton Senna has boosted himself in position to make a run at Mansell in the second half of the season in the search for his 4th World Championship, a possible 4th. Senna's momentum has continued into today's race here in Canada, and with more on that, we turn to ESPN Formula One analyst David Hobbs. Habbo, Senna, and McLaren looking good here.
Well, Senna looked terrific on Friday afternoon in qualifying, taking pole position, and Nigel was back in 4th spot. Yesterday afternoon, Nigel improved a lot after a tremendous lot of rain yesterday morning and Friday night, but not enough to take Senna off pole. But you were talking about heroes. Well, I tell you what, I wish I was at turn 1 for the first lap of this race, because they're going to have to be some very heroic driving down there. Senna has to stay in front if he wants to make a race of this, because this morning in warm-up, Nigel Mansell was absolutely blistering. You talk about anniversaries. This is also the 25th anniversary of the first Ford-powered victory, Jim Clark, back in 1967. And Ford is reasserting itself. Brundle was 1/1000th of a second slower than Mansell this morning in the warm-up. Schumacher was right behind him. And Johnny Herbert qualified 6th in the new Lotus Ford and ran 6th this morning. These guys want Senna to stay in front too, to hold up that very fast-moving train. I think we're in for an absolutely incredible race today.
I agree with that. While the pre-race festivities continue, let's take a look at the highlights of Friday and Saturday qualifying. Once again, here's David.
Qualifying here in Montreal has been the most exciting of the year, as Alesi spins yesterday afternoon. Not the only one to spin. A lot of people had trouble yesterday afternoon. Ayrton Senna takes the track with his sticker tyres on there and set the fastest time on Friday, much to everyone's surprise, not least, of course, Nigel Mansell. But yesterday, Ayrton Senna himself had a problem spinning across the grass and getting the car well and truly stuck in that gravel. So Senna had to take the foot power and walk back to the pits for his spare car. On Saturday afternoon, Nigel Mansell was electrifying. It had rained hard during the night, the track was slower, but Nigel Mansell was quicker than he'd been on Friday, quicker than anybody else on Saturday, putting in some electrifying laps in his Williams Renault. But not quite quick enough to take away pole from Ayrton Senna, the first of his 1992 season. Nigel Mansell, being the professional he is, came up to congratulate Ayrton, who no doubt was relieved to hang on to that pole position during a very, very tense time on Saturday.
And so it is McLaren and Williams across the front 2 rows. Let's get down to the grid now and meet the 3rd member of our broadcast team. Here's Andrew Marriott.
Well, thanks, Bob. I've just grabbed a word with Nigel Mansell, and he says this is not the place to be. He wants to be up there in pole. He says the first lap is going to be very tricky indeed. He says this is a race where patience will really count. You cannot really be impetuous here. You've got to take it steady, because brakes are very important. You've got to baby them a little bit. Fuel consumption's also a factor here. So Nigel Mansell knows it's going to be a very tough race. Back to you, Bob.
Since 1978, the home of the World Driving Championship round in Canada has been Montreal, the world's largest bilingual city. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Canada is brought to you by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve. There is Carl Wendlinger of Austria lined up in his March Formula One car. Let's take a look where he and the rest of the field will line up for today's race. On the pole, ending his longest pole drought since 1987, Ayrton Senna of Brazil, the defending world champion, a lap at 124.220 miles an hour, but 1.5 seconds slow in the morning warm-up. Next to him, from Italy, Riccardo Patrese in the Williams Renault machine, just 97 1/1000th of a second off of Senna's pole time, and 3rd in the morning warm-up. On row 2, Nigel Mansell of Great Britain in the Williams Renault, the overwhelming leader in the points, fastest in the morning warm-up, but only just. Next to him, Gerhard Berger of Austria in the 2nd McLaren Honda, just 14th quickest in the morning warm-up with clutch problems. Further back in the field, row 3 will be Michael Schumacher in the Benetton Ford, 4th in the warm-up. Next to him, Johnny Herbert of Great Britain with his best Formula One qualifying effort ever, 6th spot in the Lotus Ford. On row 4, Martin Brundle of Great Britain in the 2nd Benetton Ford, equal with Nigel Mansell for quickest in the warm-up. Next to him, Jean Alesi of France in the Ferrari. Row 5, Ivan Capelli of Italy in the 2nd Ferrari, next to the 2nd Lotus of Mika Hakkinen of Finland. Row 6, Ukio Katayama of Japan with a terrific qualifying run in the Venturi Lamborghini, next to the March of Carl Wendlinger of Austria. Row 7, Gianni Morbidelli of Italy in the Minardi Lamborghini, next to the Tyrrell of Andre De Cesaris of Italy. Row 8, all Italian, Pierluigi Martini in the Dallara Ferrari, next to the footwork Honda of Michele Alboreto. Row 9, Stefano Modena of Italy in the Jordan Yamaha V12, next to the Fonbettel Ford of Gabriele Tarquini. Row 10, Bertrand Gachot of France in the Venturi Lamborghini next to the March of Paul Belmondo. Row 11, Terry Boutsen of Belgium and Eric Comas of France on the Ligers, 9th and 10th in the morning warm-up. Row 12, that is, J.J. Leito of Finland and Mauricio Guglielmin of Brazil. And row 13, Christian Fittipaldi and Olivier Griard. There's the look from high above the Ile Notre Dame, a man-made island built originally for Expo 67. Let's take a look at those who did not qualify, and we'll get down to Andrew Marriott on the grid.
Yeah, well, Aguri Suzuki, for the second time this season, sadly didn't make it. Neither did the Brabhams. That wasn't really unexpected. And Andrea Chiesa, the Swiss in the Fond medal, he didn't get in. The Andrea Motors, only one ran. Apparently their engines got lost in transit, so they didn't have a chance. Back to you, Bob.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Right next to this racetrack is a barge canal, if you'd like to call that a barge, on the St. Lawrence Seaway. Huge ships going by just beyond the trees. David, how about a look at this race course?
Well, Bob, at 2.75 miles and 15 turns, it's going to be very hard work this afternoon in the heat. 2 or 3 main places going into turn 1 and 2. This is a good spot to outbrake people going into turn 1, but you want to make sure you come off turn 2 very quick so you can make best advantage of that windy back section. Having navigated those turns, we come down to the hairpin. This is turn 10. Approach this at about 190 miles an hour and slow down to first gear. Terribly, terribly tough on brakes. Another place where we'll see a lot of overtaking this afternoon. And then, of course, they sweep through those fast sweeps and down to the last complex, turns 14 and 15. Again, a good place to overtake. Again, very, very tough on the brake.
As you can see, 69 laps of racing coming your way, 2.7 miles around. Here's a look at our race analysis. Quite warm this afternoon with a little bit of cloud cover, virtually no chance of rain. Of course, the defending champion and a very surprised man, Nelson Piquet, 1 year ago. Past winners of this race, ironically, in 23 runnings since 1967, we have had 17 different winners. Nelson Piquet and Ayrton Senna, just 2 of 4 drivers who have had more than 1 victory in this race. The cars are now lined up. When they're all in place, the field will be handed over to the starter. We'll get a red light. Up will come the revs. Then we will have the green light. The lights are in the upper left portion of your picture. Listen for the sound of tens of thousands of horsepower. The field coming into position. They'll all get a close look at the start.
Hearts beating fast today, Bob. This is going to be one of the critical starts of the year. Halfway point almost. Senna on the pole for the first time. For turn 1 is going to be absolutely critical. Brilliant start by Senna.
Oh my, terrific starting goes Mansell on the inside. Senna moves over to block. Mansell got by Patrese. There may have been team orders. Patrese may have been told to let Mansell by.
Yes, it wasn't there in the middle of the field. Cars spreading themselves, but nobody actually left the road. Now this is where Senna's going to have to be a master. Both these men, of course, unbelievably brave. Mansell is awfully close to them. They come down to the complex. They're going to go onto the Acura Bridge, which is a place to pass. But then we're going to come to the hairpin, which, as I said earlier, is going to be a big passing place this afternoon.
Senna, Mansell, Patrese, and Berger.
All the cars at the moment, of course, very heavy. Absolute maximum fuel load. This is a tough circuit. They go under the Acura Bridge. There's somebody off. That looks like...
That's the Fond medal. That's the new Fond medal and the white helmet of Gabriele Tarquini of Italy.
Now there's Mansell close enough to strike here. He is pretty close. There's the 2. Benetton.
Johnny Herbert in the Lotus is right in there as well. There goes either Schumacher or Brundle down the inside of the Lotus.
So now we've got a Benetton train, a McLaren leading, a Williams train. This is a mighty corner. This complex is coming up now. Blind, can't see around it at all, as you can see, because that and very, very narrow. No gap at all between the road and that guardrail.
Notice the McLaren running up front. They get a very pronounced plume of flame out the exhaust when they are downshifting. None of the other cars are doing that. It's because of the fuel injection systems on those big Honda V12 engines. It dumps raw fuel right...
Oh! Nigel got...
Oh, right up the back of Senna.
He got it all locked up there. Nearly into that gravel trap. Once you're in there, boy, there's no getting out. That's your race done, I tell you. But they are very safe.
We've seen that happen a couple of times this weekend, including Senna, who spun off and could not get the car out of the gravel pit.
Nigel absolutely determined to get in here. We're going to see it. Oh, we're going to see a replay of the start.
On the left, Patrese leaves the opening for Mansell. Senna chops right across his bow from left to right, holds him back.
Boy, and Berger made a brave move, too, 1 row back. He slotted himself into there. The 2 Benetton streaking by.
Reaching about 165 miles an hour in this portion of what's more or less the backstretch. It's a very long, narrow race course here in Montreal. The two Lotuses running nose to tail, then a Ferrari of Jean Alesi.
Tremendous change in the Ferrari fortunes. Alesi been just trying unbelievably hard all weekend, snaking through that hairpin.
These are the best seats in the house in that hairpin. You can see we've got a huge crowd here as you look at Ayrton Senna, the three-time world champion, hoping to make it a fourth this year. But he says he really doesn't have a chance as long as Nigel Mansell holds together. Of course, Mansell, for his part, says, oh, gee, the Honda has so much more power than we do.
I think really, quite honestly, they're pretty evenly matched for horsepower at the moment. The Honda is reputed to use just a little bit more fuel, which is unusual for Honda. Normally their engines are pretty fuel economy minded, but they are behind this year, and it's going to be tough for Senna to win this World Championship. They might win some more races, but I don't see them winning the championship.
Part of that fuel problem has to do with the injection systems, as I mentioned. We asked the Honda project engineer, who tells us they keep the engine pumping fuel all the time. They could time the injection to cut off the flow of fuel when the valve closes up and the cylinder is closed for combustion. But he says then they don't get the throttle response they want off the corners. So they keep pumping fuel and they use a lot of it.
And with 15 turns, you need a lot of throttle response.
Down the back stretch they come. 2 laps complete. Working the third. It is Senna, Mansell, Patrese, Berger, Schumacher, the top 5. Followed by Martin Brundle, Johnny Herbert, Mika Hakkinen, Jean Alesi, and Carl Wendlinger. We are in the early laps of the Grand Prix of Canada, and we'll be right back. Back in Montreal, Canada, on the Ile Notre Dame, Ayrton Senna of Brazil leads Nigel Mansell in the Grand Prix of Canada. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, and Andrew Marriott with you. Down in the hairpin, look at the train of cars, the Benettons dodging to get around one another.
Martin Brundle going very well this whole weekend. He somehow let Schumacher get around him, and that was him trying to get back around his teammate. There you see the 2 Benettons, and there right behind them are the 2 Lotuses. Johnny Herbert, there's Schumacher.
We suspected if Senna got into the lead that he might hold up the field. You're riding with Michael Schumacher now. You see the flame coming out of Gerhard Berger's McLaren Honda just ahead. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Seems to be the oil spray there. They're changing the lens cover on the camera quite frequently. And that oil could be coming from old Jerry Berger's car. There you see it again on board as we go around that tight turn 2. Very important to come off here quick, because you've got this long, fast, sweeping right-hander here. You want to stay in touch with the bloke in front and try and get in there. It's a difficult place to overtake, really.
Let's listen now as he has to brake heavily and downshift. This course very tough on both brakes and transmissions with these tight corners.
This is a couple of years there, you know, went from 5th, probably down to 3rd straight away. Long rev of the engine as he just went straight from 6th down to 3rd, probably.
Running down to the hairpin now. From above, there you see Ayrton Senna and the train of cars behind him. Senna, Mansell, Patrese, Berger, Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert, and Hakkinen, all running in that train right there. Here comes Jean Alesi in the red car. Now, just a few laps ago, these are the 2 Venturi-LaRousse teammates. Ukio Katayama on the left, Bertrand Gachot on the right. Pretty savage coming together. Let's take a look now at the start from above.
Look at Gerhard Berger moving from left to right on the picture to head off the 2 Benettons. He didn't want those Benettons to get in front of him here at the beginning part of this race. And they're all bunching up there to go to that turn. Whoo-wee! And there's Hakkinen on the grass in front of the pits. Dusty now, but not dusty yesterday afternoon. Pretty mushy. In fact, Nigel had a big go yesterday in qualifying. Went all the way down that grass with 2 wheels. I guess the traction control helped him a bit there. Closing up again on Senna. Senna, very, very good at racecraft. Rarely makes a mistake, touch wood. And he is good at holding people up, there's no doubt about it. Nigel says they've got more power coming off the corner with the Honda. Senna says, not sure about that. It's always deceptive coming off the corner because the guy in front obviously accelerates quicker. If there's a second gap, you're doing 200, it's a lot further than it is if you're only doing 30. So it looks like you're closing up, but you're not really.
Despite the tight nature of this racetrack, these cars will reach 190 miles an hour on the straightaway run down to the pit entrance. 175 miles an hour this stretch right here as they rush down to the hairpin. Hard on the brakes in just 100 yards, going from 170, 175 down to about 30.
I have a horrible feeling that Senna really is holding this train up. It's making it good for us, and it's good for the Benetton, and it's good for Lotus. not particularly good for Mansell and the Williams Renault cars, but I think he is holding these guys up, and if they get around him, they're going to just rocket off into the distance.
After winning the pole here, we spoke to Ayrton Senna about the McLaren's progress here in Canada and his view of the coming 92 championship fight.
I don't think we made enough progress from the last race to this one to put us where we are. So it's more likely that they are a little bit behind on what they usually can do in their own performance. We improve a little bit, and then as a balance, we were just there when the opportunity raised again, like Monte Carlo in the race. We were there when it mattered. So let's see and wait. I think I cannot really think much about championship since I am too many points behind. And surely they have few advantage. Today is only one day. So far the whole season that anyone can come anywhere near their performance. So you cannot say, no, today we are ahead, so now we have a chance. It's dream. We just have to keep on working, trying to improve our performance and wait, because championship is difficult, perhaps the most difficult one that we ever compete because of the positions in the point, but it's not over. Until the end we will fight, and all we can do is to try our best.
There is Martin Brundle trying his best. That's his teammate just ahead of him, Michael Schumacher.
This is that fast complex I was saying about. Pretty scary to stand by that guardrail where we can and watch close up. You just realize just how fast these cars are going.
Oh, is it ever? You can stand there and watch the cars drive away from you. As David pointed out, it's a rise, and the drivers cannot see where the road goes. You just keep your foot on the floor and hope you time it right.
They're going through there flat out in 6. They're not going through here flat out in 6. This is probably third gear, turn 2. Senna, as I say, holding on at the moment. All of these drivers, of course, although they want to get to the front and they're driving very hard, they are, in fact, taking a bit of care of the cars. They have to be careful of the brakes, and, of course, they have to be careful of the tyres. They're trying to make this race without a tyre stop. They're all using the soft D compound, we're told, which slides less, so in actual fact it wears less and gives them a better chance of finishing the race, although we are told the Ferraris will probably stop. But as you can see at the moment, the Ferrari is not really a factor in this race at all.
A 6-car train rapidly becoming an 8-car train. Let's get a quick pit report from Andrew Marriott.
Well, what David said, behind me you see the Williams team in a state of red alert, but that doesn't mean to say they're going to make a pit stop. I've just talked to Patrick Head. He says he expects them to go through the race, but David, as you said, Ferrari, I think they are going to make a stop, but don't expect any pit stops from anyone other than Ferrari unless there's a problem. Bob.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Look at that train of cars. We've not seen something like this all year long in Formula One. This is the 7th race of the year, rapidly approaching halfway at Magny-Cours in France. We are working lap number 8. Senna, Mansell, Patrese. You're riding with Michael Schumacher, who runs in 5th position behind Gerhard Berger, followed by Martin Brundle, Johnny Herbert, Mika Hakkinen, and Jean Alesi. We'll show you those top 5. The action continues at the Grand Prix of Canada. Ayrton Senna trying desperately to pull out a lead over the Williams teammates, Mansell and Patrese. Here's a look at the streets of McGill's College, where street musicians are all a part of the 350th anniversary of this beautiful, beautiful city, as European as you'll find anywhere in North America. We'll be right back. The Grand Prix of Canada, 4 seconds separate first place from 8th place on the racetrack, working lap number 10 of 69 schedule. There's Ayrton Senna, the red and white McLaren, a brand new car, the most complex and expensive Formula One machine ever put together. Behind him, the red 5 of Nigel Mansell, then Ricardo Patrese, Gerhard Berger, Michael Schumacher, Martin Brundle, then Johnny Herbert and Mika Hakkinen, all running nose to tail. There you see them from above.
And Mansell seems to have closed up just a little bit on Senna. Now we're coming to that very fast complex. A little bit of a right sweep, then plunges down this slight slope, and then a very fast right exit.
Mansell taking a look down the inside of Senna.
Tough place to pass that. Possible, but you've got to make sure that... Oh, right behind him now as he goes into turn 1. Now Senna starting to make his car 15 foot wide, as Mansell told us just before we went to the start of this race. Cameron got in just a bit closer. Oh, Mansell's right with him now.
Fuel begins to burn off. Handling on the cars will change. Engine response will change a little bit. The driver will have to change his technique a little bit. Keep in mind, it is very hot in these cars. Ambient air temperature in the mid-70s right now. It's got to be about 100 inside the cockpit. especially wrapped up in 4 layers of fire-resistant clothing and that balaclava they wear underneath the helmet, gloves and boots.
Thick gloves, boots. I mean, you certainly have all the attire on that does not do you the best in these hot days. Mansell really, really getting to grips now.
A little dirt.
Senna using a bit of road that he hasn't been using before. That's why that dirt came up. Into the hair. Watching the mirror, watching the rust.
Arguably the 2 best drivers in the world right now. Certainly the 2 best Grand Prix drivers in the world. Very evenly matched, as David mentioned, nose to tail.
There's no doubt that Williams has the edge in terms of cars.
You can see the difference there in points between seasons. Right here from Senna, 44 points at this juncture last year, 18 after 6 races this year. But he is not out of it, and his team manager, Ron Dennis, says anybody who declares McLaren Honda out of this championship is a fool.
That Ron Dennis is refusing to have made some slightly disparaging remarks about the active suspension on the Williams cars over the weekend, saying you just wait till you see ours when it makes its debut in about 3 or 4 races time down the road. So we'll just have to see. I remember Ron Dennis saying at the beginning of the season that anybody that he said there's no way the MP47 is not going to be instantly successful. Well, it hasn't been desperately successful up to date. Not too bad.
The numbers on Michael Schumacher. Absolutely spectacular career, if you can call 12 races a career in Formula One.
See that flame coming out of Berger's car in front.
Hard on those brakes. Cottonwood blossoms blowing across our scene, blowing across the river. Andrew Marriott in the pits has more on Ricardo Patrese situation.
Yes, Bob, they've been putting some very curious messages on the pit board. For 2 laps, they showed the word rev, and then after that, they put on the message radio. I think maybe Ricardo has been revving the car too much, and they were trying to communicate with him, and the only way they have is the old-fashioned pit board. So we'll have to watch that Patrese situation. From here, he seems to be going fine now, and they've stopped using those messages, but a little bit of concern over Ricardo. David?
Well, there you see Ricardo looks pretty good at the moment, managing to keep in front of Berger. I see that Mansell keeps wiping his face. I wonder if the McLaren is in fact dropping some oil or spraying a fine spray of oil out the exhaust pipe. But Mansell keeps on wiping his face across his hand across his face.
Senna had an oil leak problem in the morning warm-up, which may have contributed to his performance. 1.5 seconds slower than Mansell. Benetton boys, Schumacher, and Brundle go by. There may be some oil coming out of that McLaren. But there's Bertrand Gachot into the wall for the 2nd time this weekend.
Second time this race. That's damn as good. We just saw him and his teammate come together. You're going to see a replay of it now. This is down at the hairpin.
Coming up from behind on the right side of the screen. Just the way he went around in practice on Saturday.
Trying to avoid, he only just tapped the guardrail. If he hasn't stalled it. They're talking about making a change to the Formula One rules and regulations, because I think a very good rule change would be to have self-starters back on these cars.
Down in the hairpin.
When this sort of thing happens, the guy can get back in the race, instead of which you lose a good runner.
Ricardo Patrese is just as happy not to see Bertrand Gachot in the race. He punched him in the helmet because he couldn't get his hand inside the helmet at Monaco, thinking Gachot had chopped him during a practice run. Gachot is not Ricardo's favorite driver these days. Now you see Ricardo pulling up a little bit in the blue and yellow number 6 car behind his teammate Nigel Mansell. Gerhard Berger right there, back on board with Martin Brundle. The Benetton cars work very well on full tanks. They are very light V8 engine cars, and the tires heat up better and work better when the cars are heavier, full of fuel.
But, of course, being a V8 as opposed to a 12 or a 10, they do in fact use a bit less fuel, so they start the race a bit lighter, which is helping to make them very competitive at this early stage of the race. Which is another reason why Berger did that move at the start to try and get in front of them, because he didn't want them getting around him.
The battle continues. Schumacher now begins to pull away just a little bit. Goodyear tire engineer getting that rev signal once again on his pit board. One of the Renault engine designers was out there on the guardrail as well. They monitor those revs with computers. They know more than the drivers do about what the engines are doing. There's a look at your top 10. We'll be back with more shortly from the Ile Notre Dame. Downtown on Saint-Jacques-Cartier in Old Montreal, you'll find an eclectic collection of street performers, jugglers, clowns, all sorts of galleries, shops, and even the real oddball, a man imitating a robot. We'll be back to Montreal in a moment. In the the hairpin on the circuit. Gilles Villeneuve, look at the train close up. We're having tremendous racing in the early going. The Grand Prix of Canada. Gerhard Berger having all sorts of problems trying to keep young German Michael Schumacher in check.
Well, Gerhard Berger tried to get past, Gerhard Berger tried to get past the Crazy, which threw him slightly off balance when he failed to make it, which allowed the other two guys to catch up.
There you see the time interval. We're going to take another look at what David was just talking about. Berger took...
Oh, that's Mansell. Mansell spun.
A lot of dust. Looks like he may have put a couple of wheels off on the right side. Ooh, way to go. Here comes Ivan Capelli in the Ferrari.
Is that wheel damaged, or is it just the left front wheel damaged to you, or is that...
Something is lying up there on the racetrack in the upper right corner of the screen. Something may have come off the car, and it looks as though the engine has died. Left rear tire looks a little bit askew, too. Mansell is slumped over in the car as well.
Oh, he's moving now.
You see his helmet moving, but he is lying back. Now, this is not a full-course yellow, keep in mind. Here's another look. Mansell has already gone out the left of your screen. We'll pick it up as the camera moves over. Oh, he went off onto the gravel.
He charged across the gravel. Nearly hung onto it there.
And he got ahead of Senna in the process.
No, that's Berger. Oh, you're right. Oh, he could have cut across the grass. He would do.
It put him in the lead. Unfortunately, he was pointing in the wrong direction. There is Frank Williams with his young son with him.
Now, that hasn't made Frank Williams this afternoon. So now we have a McLaren 1-2.
You see, there is a piece of the front winglet to help provide downforce for the front end of the car. Nigel Mansell evidently stunned, but moving around. Now this is a local yellow and an oil
way
flag.
they're just racing there like there's no tomorrow. Those guys are standing joring in the middle of the road. Well, just down the road from there is a huge crane to remove cars off the track, but I think it's just a little bit far away to be able to reach Nigel's car, so they're going to have to manhandle it out of the way. There's Nigel getting out. No doubt incredibly missed, but even if Senna should win this race, he'll still keep that huge point lead.
This is the first time Nigel will not finish in 1992, and it could mean a 10-point swing in the points. If Ricardo Patrese could win this race, he would pull up to within 18 of Mansell for the lead in the World Championship. And of course, what it could mean for Ayrton Senna needs no elaboration. Nigel appears to be all right. Well, he was slumped in that car for a moment, and you had to wonder.
I think, I don't think he didn't hit anything hard. He just went across on that grass. Oh, he's mouthing off something very unpleasant there to somebody.
Talking with Ron Dennis from McLaren there, and I don't think it was have a nice day. Ron telling Nigel to calm down. Nigel obviously angry with something.
Well, I think he's angry. I think he's implying that Senna was holding him up. It certainly didn't look. I mean, we didn't see anything on camera anyway of Senna doing anything untoward in the driving scheme, and I don't think that Nigel really could get to grips with him, quite honestly.
There's Andrew.
He throws himself a world champion. I hope you saw it on television. Pushed me over. Did it? Well, Nigel Mansell very unhappy there. Something of a melly down here. But if you heard...
Unfortunately, we can't see exactly what happened.
There is the car still on the racetrack.
Had he in fact got around Senna and Senna eased him over into the... We don't know because we don't see it.
Nigel may have passed Senna in the run down to the pit entrance where there's a sharp right and left-hand corner, but as David said, we did not see it on our Canadian host broadcast feed. At any rate, it is Senna and Berger with a McLaren 1-2 at this point. Berger having gotten around Ricardo Patrese, while Nigel was telling us what he thought of Ayrton Senna. We'll be back. McLaren 1-2, Ayrton Senna in the yellow helmet, and then the black and white helmet with the Austrian flag for Gerhard Berger. Watch out, Mr. Seagull. Ricardo Patrese now running in third place. Let's take another look at what happened that took Nigel Mansell out of this race. You're riding with Michael Schumacher. Look far into the distance there. It looks as though Nigel did get in front of Senna. Nigel says he was pushed off. I don't see it, but keep watching now. There's Gerhard Berger just ahead, who dives up against the pit wall, nudges Ricardo Patrese over, and moves into second. Now there is Petrese's car. Is that not? Or is that Petrese? Oh, that's Ansel. I'm sorry. I didn't see the pit wall. I thought that was elsewhere on the racetrack. Now, moments ago on lap 18, this is what happened to Ivan Capelli.
A tremendous impact on the fast backside of this circuit, and Capelli just another step nearer to not driving a Ferrari anymore. Michael Andretti was walking around the pits all weekend. Good candidate to fill that seat. Capelli having an absolutely miserable season. What a terrible shame for him too. I mean, Italian's dream is to drive a Ferrari, and ever since he's been driving, everything has just gone wrong. This is that fast, right, left, there.
Now working lap number 20.
There's that crane on the left there, but it's just too far away to get Nigel's car, which is in fact just around the corner here.
But it is pulled off to the side. Senna, Berger, Petrese, Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert, Hakkinen, Alesi, Venlier, and Katayama. Lucio Katayama in the Venturi LaRousse having a terrific run with that Chrysler-supported Lamborghini V12 engine.
In spite of having that run-in with his teammate earlier on in the race, it obviously has done no damage to his car, even though it removed some of the wings off his teammate's car. There you see again, Schumacher going past Regan with the pallet shop. Bit of a twiddle of the old wheel there as the car got away from it a bit. The V8 singing away, rushing through the trees on the backside of the circuit.
Behind Katayama in 10th, it's Andre De Cesaret, Eric Comas, Michele Alboreto, Pierluigi Martini, Gianni Morbidelli, Paul Belmondo, Terry Boutsen, and J.J. Leto.
This race we're seeing here between Petrese and Schumacher, of course, is a rerun of just 2 weeks ago that we did not see in Monte Carlo when Schumacher was all over Petrese like a cheap suit apparently for the whole race. And they finished like this, only in eggs, third, fourth, which is where they're running just now. Schumacher, yet again, running well in the points in only his 13th race. I mean, this guy is just something else.
He will definitely be flavor of the month when the silly season begins, usually around halfway through the Formula One season. We'll see you from Silverstone in Great Britain, and I'm sure the talk will be about where will Schumacher go next. I know he has a contract with Benetton for next year. Don't count on it, folks. There is Nigel Mansell's car being pushed off. A number of ideas have been proposed to slow Formula One cars down and make the racing closer. We asked the drivers before today's event what they thought of the idea of using a safety car or pace car in Grand Prix.
Well, if the accident is very bad and it's the sort of accident that or we put the pace car in or we stop the race, I think the pace car is better than stop the race because do another start is more dangerous than having a pace car in. But if the accident is not that bad, I think the pace car is not very good.
I think it's good for the spectacle, yeah, because I tell you, it will close up the field during the race. This is important. I like to watch IndyCar race, the TV, and I like this idea. Yeah.
I think a pace car is a good idea because if you took Adelaide as an example, Australia, I mean, they've had a couple of cancelled races with the weather, or races that might have been cancelled. I think that if you can keep the race going under a yellow with a pace car and clear up the debris or whatever and make things safe and then start again, then at least you're keeping the ball rolling and there's something for everyone to watch, and also it's disappointing if you get G'd up for a race and then everything stops after 10 laps.
I've raced in IMSA with pace cars, I've raced in IROC with pace cars and some sports car races, and it's usually been total and utter chaos.
Well, there you see Frank Williams, whose #1 guy, Nigel Mansell, is out of the race. And there is debris both on the front straightaway and on the backside, where Ivan Capelli had a huge impact in his Ferrari.
Well, now, of course, we've got absolutely perfect case here for having a pace car because there is a tow truck out there on the track. I never feel very safe, even when those tow trucks are out in IndyCar racing, under a full course caution. Now they're not under a full course caution. They're all racing like mad, except where the yellow flags are out. And there's a tow truck out there trying to lift Capelli's car out of the way. One of those drivers you saw being interviewed there, by the way, that's Damon Hill, son of Graham Hill, three-time world champion, and, of course, Indy winner in 1966. Unfortunately, didn't qualify for this race.
There's your leader, Ayrton Senna, Gerhard Berger, Ricardo Patrese, then Michael Schumacher, Martin Brundle, and Johnny Herbert runs in the 6th and final points-paying position. He'd pick up 1 point for 6th place.
Now, it's a pity we don't have a replay from that camera there, because that was the one that would have seen the action with Nigel Mansell. But so maybe they'll be able to find one in the archives, because it's obviously going to be a point of controversy. And the one time Nigel wants to be on the telly, he's not on. So we can just see then.
And the one incident he would like to see on the television, we're not able to give you a very good picture of. Johnny Herbert, whom we'll see at the 24 Hours of Le Mans Sports Car Classic in a week's time. There you see Nigel Mansell's hapless Williams Renault being towed away. You better hope it's not his chances of that first World Championship as well. A lot of racing still to come from Canada. Stay with us. Back on the Ile de Notre Dame, a man-made island in the St. Lawrence River, originally built to house Expo 67, eventually used in the Summer Olympic Games in 1976 here in Montreal. Bob Barsha and David Hobbs, along with Andrew Marriott, glad to have you with us for the Grand Prix of Canada. Your leader in the red and white car to the right of your screen, Ayrton Senna of Brazil, coming off that very lucky but big win at the Grand Prix of Monaco 2 weeks ago. His McLaren Honda teammate Gerhard Berger just behind him. Keep in mind, this car was absolutely uncompetitive with the Williams Renault package just a few weeks ago. Now they are up here running 1-2.
Patrese giving Berger a hard time now after that unbelievably gutsy pass that Berger put on Patrese going down the pit straight here. Squeezed himself right up to the pit wall and whistled by. There you see the little red light on the dash of Brundle's car, which is really the red line. When it comes on, that's when they shift.
Before we went to commercial, you heard me say that Nigel better hope his shot at the World Championship hasn't gone away. Now, you may be wondering, hey, Bob, it's only halfway through the season. How could he blow the championship? It's been that kind of career for Nigel Mansell. It's always the bad luck, the odd incident that turns things around. Andrew Marriott is down in the pit lane. I believe he's with Nigel Mansell now. Andrew?
Well, not exactly, Bob, because Nigel is now not speaking to anybody, surrounded by cameras and photographers, and there's a total scrum down here. I did catch a very quick word with him, but basically he said all that he said to us before. He is not happy about Ayrton Senna at all. He's going straight to the helicopter now. In fact, he's very nearly there. He's going to get in the helicopter and leave this racetrack a very, very unhappy man.
All right, thank you, Andrew. There is the Williams pit. Ricardo Patrese, their only man still out there. Williams Renault as a chassis and engine combination won here in Canada for the first time in 1989. There's Patrick Head, team designer, talking with Frank Williams. There are the Benetton boys. Schumacher, followed by Martin Brundle, familiar to ESPN fans from his exploits in the IMSA Camel GT Series and in IROC competition. Here is our running order after 25 laps. We're past the 1/3 mark. Look for your favorite driver. Ayrton Senna beginning to pull out a little bit of a lead. 0.6 of a second over Gerhard Berger. Make that 0.8 of a second as our timing and scoring system recycles. Ricardo Patrese, 0.7 of a second behind Berger. Michael Schumacher, a 0.5 second behind Patrese. Brundle less than that from Schumacher. And then a 3.5 second gap back to Johnny Herbert as the Lotus cars begin to slide back into the field. That's the end of this train right there. Martin Brundle.
This, of course, is only the second race for the new Lotus, the 107. So really they're going extremely well.
Gerhard Berger, you saw struggling with the steering wheel there. This is a quite bumpy circuit. Only one race a year on this circuit, and this is it. It is very, very dusty. Traction is at an absolute minimum.
And of course, these cars have got terrific horsepower. Now, these cars have got like Indy-type horsepower, 700 plus, with the advantage of being normally aspirated and a big capacity engine, 3.5 litres, so they've got a lot of grunt as well. And so, yeah, when these guys apply the old throttle pedal, I mean, things happen at the back wheels. A lot of things happen, and that makes it happen at the steering wheel. An awful lot of wheel twiddling going on out on this circuit. Very, very tiring track.
Got to look at Gerhard Berger, who flew to this race in his own private jet, of course, who among Formula One drivers does not have a jet. Took him 17 hours with fuel stops. Not a very big jet, I reckon.
I think I'd rather come on Concorde to New York and jet up here on civilian airline.
It would be cheaper.
17 hours sounds like a long time in a small plane to me.
From high above, there you see the leaders about to begin lapping traffic, and then the game will really be on. Senna quickly pulls out a 1.1 second lead over Berger. The Brazilian is absolutely on his game today. Nigel Mansell says he got bumped out of this race by this man. We can't confirm or deny it.
I don't know. We can't tell because we didn't see it, but just from that brief video from Schumacher's car, which is a fair way back, it looked like Nigel may have attempted an outside pass on the right-hander going into the chicane, which would be extremely difficult to pull off. Getting into lap traffic now, this is going to set the cat among the pigeons down and getting into the slower traffic. Slower here, of course, being an incredibly relative term.
Now there is the helicopter that Nigel Mansell was going to climb in, as Andrew told us. We are now told that Nigel has filed an official protest over what he considers Senna's tactics on the racetrack. This is unconfirmed at this point, but we understand that Nigel is protesting and will hold a press conference sometime during the course of the afternoon, so things continue to boil here in Canada.
One of the Jordan cars there, the Jordan Yamaha, is about to be put a lap down by Ayrton Senna in the McLaren Honda. Yamaha and Jordan not having a happy relationship or a happy year. Apparently the engine's very heavy and very, very fuel thirsty. They were telling me the other night they're going to have to somehow fit 248 litres of fuel into it, which is a bit of a snag because they've only got a 230-litre tank.
That would be a problem.
That would be a hell of a problem, actually. Senna. The Jordan still between him and Berger through this twisty bit, which will be bad for Berger, good for Senna.
We saw that Ayrton Senna is one of only 5 drivers to win twice in the Canadian Grand Prix, which has been held at 3 sites: the Mont-Tremblant circuit north of Montreal, Mossport Park elsewhere in Canada, and here on the Ile Notre-Dame.
Mossport is just outside of Toronto. I raced on both those circuits. Very, very interesting circuits, but somewhat outdated by modern Formula 1 standards.
Other than Senna, the other drivers to win twice: Jackie Ickx, Jackie Stewart, Alan Jones, and Nelson Piquet. Ayrton Senna in good company and leading the way here in Montreal. We'll be back for more of the Grand Prix of Canada. Senna in his red and white McLaren Honda with a yellow helmet comes down the front straightaway through the left and right hand sweeps, where Nigel Mansell went out of this race trying to pass Senna for the lead. And a controversy has begun here at Canada. The order is Senna, Berger, Patrese, Schumacher, Brundle, Herbert, Hakkinen, Alesi, Wendlinger, and Katayama rounding out the top 10. Behind them, Andrea De Cesaris, Eric Comas, Michele Alboreto, Pierluigi Martini, and Gianni Morbidelli runs in the 15th spot. Those 15 cars are on the lead lap as we work lap number 30. Now, we mentioned Nigel Mansell crashed out of this race. There you see his Williams-Renault teammate, Ricardo Patrese. Mansell accused Senna of bumping him from the race, and we understand he's filed a protest. Let's get more on the story now from Andrew Marriott on the pit lane.
Well, that's right, Bob. In fact, he is still in the process of filing that protest. He actually stormed down the back of the pits, pushed a lot of photographers aside. Total scrum. You probably heard it when I was chasing after him. He has now gone up into the steward's room. He's been there about 10 minutes, and he is filing a protest about Ayrton Senna's driving. So he's still a very, very unhappy camper, I can tell you that, Bob.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Nigel can get unhappy, too.
Yeah, well, everybody does. I tell you, racing is one of those things, you know, drivers every now and then get out of the car and hit somebody. Everybody says, I don't understand these drivers. You know, other sportsmen don't do that. I tell you, the difference between this and other sports, you see McEnroe break rackets and fling balls all around the place. But just imagine what it's like in a situation like this. Talk about a high-pressure situation. You get pushed out of a World Championship event, of which there are only 16. I mean, it is very, very emotive.
Tremendous adrenaline rush going on.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Riding aboard with Michael Schumacher. And this is his teammate's car, Martin Brundle. They are running nose to tail right now in fourth and fifth.
Schumacher just losing slightly touch with Patrese in the stage.
A famous visitor to the Montreal paddock this weekend is Michael Andretti. Andrew Marriott spoke with Michael about his interest in racing in Formula One. Of course, he tested with McLaren. Andrew asked him when we might see him in a race in F1.
Well, I am. If we can, put something together with the right team, I'd love to give it a try. It's nice to be back here and say hi to all the McLaren people here. They treated me really well, when I did do those tests, and we're just saying hi.
Any chance of some more tests with McLaren?
Right now, there's no plans, but who knows?
I have to ask the question, does Formula One need Michael Andretti more than Michael Andretti needs Formula One?
Well, I don't know if it's for me to answer that. I think Formula One needs a top American driver, yeah, I think. And I'd like to do it if things are right, but if not, I don't want to do it just to say I did Formula One. If I do it, I want to know that I have a shot at winning races.
Is Formula One a realistic option for you for next season?
I think so. I think there's a good possibility it could happen. You know, there's going to be some things happening, I'm sure, this year in the driver situation, and you know, we'll just have to see what happens.
Meanwhile, on the racetrack,
and look at Schumacher's helmet there in the top left. The back of his helmet. Just look at all that oil that's running around the back of his helmet, coming out of somebody's car, and it won't be his.
Anytime I see the Benettons, I think of Sandro Nannini, who drove so well for the team, won a race in Japan back in 1987, 88, who lost his right hand in a helicopter crash. He was surgically reattached. He is back in a race car. He won a round of the Italian Touring Car Championship recently. Of course, he was once teammates with Nelson Piquet. Let's take one more look at the incident that took Nigel Mansell out of this race. Way up at the front of your picture, you see Senna go through the corner. Mansell is off the racetrack. There may have been contact there, but we certainly couldn't see it. We saw the dust fly when Mansell went onto the grass. Watch Gerhard Berger just ahead. Mansell spinning off to the left. Berger dives down the inside of the pit lane wall there and goes right by Riccardo Patrese into second place.
Now that was a huge piece of opportunism there, because obviously Patrese lifted when he saw the wreckage of his teammate bouncing across the road, lifted, deciding where to go, and Berger just kept his foot right in it, picked up momentum and whistled by him.
I'll finish my Nannini story. Nelson Piquet, his teammate in 1990, of course hurt in that savage crash at Indianapolis. There you see Johnny Morbidelli and the Minardi going around. Sandro Nannini recently faxed a get well message to Nelson Piquet. He said, well, why don't we form one driver? We'll team up. My feet, your hands. I blew the punchline. Sorry. It is Senna, Berger, and Patrese.
Better than laughing. Whoa! Ooh, old Berger having to go at his teammate there now. Ronda. That'll be just great, wouldn't it? These two take each other out.
Now Patrese closes right up on Berger. Meanwhile, behind them, Schumacher and Brundle running fast lap of the race thus far as they try to get back into it. Oh, and they run right up behind Riccardo Patrese.
So maybe Senna is holding up this train again. Berger wants to get around him because he's being harried unmercifully by Patrese, and Patrese wants to get around them both because he's got Schumacher right up his chop. So a lot of people here very anxious to get around, and there we see Nigel. That guy on his left is one of Britain's best-known reporters. Of course, I can't remember his name just off the top of my head, but he writes for some of our daily papers.
Meanwhile, Andrew Marriott has another driver in the pit lane.
With your teammate there, you crashed with your teammate.
Yeah, it was a misunderstanding because it was right at the start of the race and I was going well, my car was really good, and I thought he let me by at the hairpin. At the last minute he just closed the door and I touched his rear wheel with my front wing. It's stupid because it was really a misunderstanding.
Well, bad luck, Bertrand, after that super drive at Monaco. Back to you, Bob.
Bertrand Gachot will drive with this man, Johnny Herbert, bringing the Lotus into the pits, obviously under no power whatsoever. Gachot, Herbert, and Volker Wiedler of Germany will drive as the defending champions in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which we'll see here on ESPN. Meanwhile, on the racetrack, Senna, Berger, Patrese, Schumacher, and Brundle all running close together.
The sun got under some cloud, which is no doubt a bit of welcome relief for the drivers. I don't think it's rain-type cloud, but at least it is putting them in the shade, which they'll no doubt appreciate in this very, very tough race. You can see the cars bouncing around. Just that bouncing around here is pretty tiring.
And you can see the marbles, the rubber coming off the tires, building up just off the racing line.
Well, of course, if you get in those, I tell you, if you get pushed offline, you get into those marbles. Boy, I mean, you see a lot of wheel twirling then, I can tell you.
There is Martin Brundle. Watch out for the Benetton Ford V8. Looking very strong here. We are just past halfway in the Grand Prix of Canada. At the circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the Ile Notre Dame in the midst of the mighty St. Lawrence River. There you see Nigel Mansell aboard the helicopter now, making his way out. There you can see where they land these helicopters on that little pontoon board in the middle of the rowing basin built for the '76 Olympics. Just beyond the pits here at the Villeneuve circuit. Away goes Nigel Mansell, but we have certainly not heard the end of this. Ayrton Senna knocked him out of the lead, says Nigel. Nevertheless, Senna is where he wants to be. Here are some scenes of Montreal, said to be the city with the greatest collection of 17th, 18th, and 19th century buildings anywhere in North America, celebrating its 350th birthday. Very close to anywhere in the northeastern United States. You couldn't find a better place to take a European-style vacation very close to home. We'll be back. Senna has stopped on the racetrack, and there is the view from Michael Schumacher's car. We have had a tremendous jumbling in the points. Both of the Lotus cars are now out of this race. The order is now Berger in first, Patrese second, Schumacher right here is third, Martin Brundle is fourth, Jean Alesi fifth, Carl Wendlinger is sixth.
Carl Wendlinger in the March, basically an unsponsored car, although they have picked up a lot of Canadian sponsorship this weekend. Now we're going to see, here we see from Schumacher's car, no doubt, what happened to Senna. There you see him slowing up suddenly at the front of the pack.
Saw the dying flame from the engine there. Here's a view from the corner. His hand goes up. He knew immediately that the engine was stopped. Look at the stands. Oh, my. All of this taking place within a couple of laps. Johnny Herbert and Mika Hakkinen both out in their Lotus 107 Fords. Gerhard Berger leads for the first time since his victory last year in Japan. Of course, that was a victory he was handed by his teammate. Senna pulled over and let Berger win.
Well, maybe all these drivers with the oil, everybody's got oil all over their helmets, and maybe that oil was coming from Senna's car all along.
One of the Minardis makes way for the race leader, Gerhard Berger. That's Johnny Morbidelli pulling aside to let the race leader pass. The Minardi using a brand new engine. That's a new car, and they have a new 6-speed semi-automatic gearbox designed by Morbidelli's father, who's famed for his racing motorcycles. Gerhard Berger. What a relieved fellow he must be. Pulling up now on the Dallara of Pierluigi Martini. Martin Brundle passing slower traffic. Michael Schumacher doing the same, just ahead, or just behind. Brundle is ahead of Schumacher. Martin Brundle now is in third, Michael Schumacher in fourth. Here's a look from Brundle's car. Schumacher just ahead, passing slower traffic. That's the Minardi. Oh, gets run right out to the wall in front of the pits.
Brundle again with supreme piece of opportunism, pulls up alongside him, squeezes right between him and the car that he had just been squeezed out by. Whew. I tell you what, he could have got a cigarette paper between any of those wheels there. He'd have been pretty lucky.
Johnny Morbidelli is not Michael Schumacher's favorite Grand Prix driver right now.
Be interesting to see if Brundle could make any impression on Patrese, because to a certain extent, Brundle was being held up by Schumacher.
Look at the Montreal skyline, St. Lawrence River. You're on board briefly there in the Ferrari.
Whoa, that looks like one of the marches just blown up.
Engine?
Or dust?
I think it might have been dust.
Offline to let the fast.
But the car is definitely slowing, you're right. He might have blown the engine. And he's off the line for good. Here comes Brundle. Around, well, not around quite yet, Martini. Schumacher right there. Driving with a bit of anger, no doubt.
Absolutely. Fuming.
There's the McLaren pit. Gerhard Berger could be calling at any moment. We don't expect tire stops for the McLaren, but you never know.
They look pretty ready down there, don't they? They look more than just sort of the get ready.
Now, Brundle has gotten around slower traffic. Schumacher held up briefly, but as you can see, he moves by that Dallara Ferrari. Bringing that Ford V8 out for all it's worth. The highest revving V8 engine ever built, 14,000 RPM, with an electronic engine management system that takes 1.7 million measurements per second. Here's Gerhard Berger with the equally state-of-the-art V12 Honda.
These two now put a lot of daylight between themselves and the two Benetton cars. The Benetton got badly held up there by Pierluigi Martini, both of them, one after the other, which allowed our two leaders to pull out quite a big gap. So it'll be interesting to see if the Benettons can in fact pull it back.
In the background, the Jacques Cartier Bridge spanning the St. Lawrence River and the Seaway where the big ships pass. The city owes much of its existence to the river. On board now in the Ferrari of Jean Alesi. In fact, the river led to the founding of Montreal. The rapids in the river stopped fur traders making their way downstream from the Atlantic toward the Great Lakes, and they settled here back in 1942. In the back, the Palais de Civilisation, one of the buildings built for Expo 67, now serves as a park facility. That's what this racetrack is the rest of the year, a park, and these are the service roads. There's the Minardi in the pits. That's Morbidelli. Young Gianni Morbidelli, who drove the Ferrari in the last 2 races of 1992, make that last 1 race in Australia after Alain Prost was fired from the Ferrari team in Japan. There is the race leader, Gerhard Berger. The lapping of slower traffic continues around the racetrack, well past halfway in the Formula One Grand Prix of Canada. There are your top 10. We'll be right back. We have a pit stop. This is Olivier Griard, 8th fastest in the morning warm-up. Here's Andrew.
Yes, well, Olivier Griard off there now. Very quick pit stop. So we didn't expect any pit stops of fresh tyres, but just looking at Griard's tyres, they don't look too bad. They're certainly not blistered, but anyway, decided to need a fresh set. Back to you, Bob.
And that fresh set will certainly make a difference in the grip he gets in that car.
But he's already a lap down there. We see Ayrton Senna out in the woods in the park here, looking on disconsolately. Very disappointing for him. He needed those points like he needed oxygen at this stage of the year.
Too bad Nigel Mansell didn't hang around. He and Senna could have talked it out, you know, decided what exactly happened in that close moment there on the racetrack that put Mansell out of the race. Senna is now out, so that will not threaten Nigel's chances for that world championship. But still in the race, Gerhard Berger leads. Riccardo Patrese, second in the championship right now, runs second. In third is Martin Brundle. Fourth, Michael Schumacher, whom you just saw from the cockpit camera. There is Berger making his way around. What a remarkable story. Early in his career, he suffered a road crash and a broken back. His life was saved by the chance that the car behind him was occupied by a pair of doctors who took care of him. Within 6 months, he was back in a race car, and now he is one of the leading Grand Prix drivers in the world. There's Jean Alesi in the lone remaining Ferrari in this race. His teammate Ivan Capelli crashed out right there.
All that debris you see there, in fact, was part of Capelli's car. Alesi has just driven his heart out all weekend, had a pretty hair-raising weekend, a ton of spins, ran back to the pits a couple of times, and driving very hard, and it's paid off for him. He's running in 5th spot now.
Working lap number 44, Berger, Patrese, Brundle, Schumacher, Alesi, and Wendlinger in the points-paying positions. And that point will be so important to Wendlinger's March team. They desperately need points in order to gain sponsorships and stay in the running. Patrese slowed. Riccardo Patrese, the second-place car, is slowed. The pit entrance is coming up, and no doubt he will take it. He does. Both Williams cars are out.
Good grief, what a race of attrition. Nobody expected this, I don't think. His looks like he's out of power, too. He's giving the, no, don't bother to tend to it, lads. This car is done for the day.
Well, the engine was still running, it sounded like. You heard him blip it before stopping it. Andrew was there.
Yes, sir. Riccardo Patrese is just climbing out the cockpit. This is obviously terminal. Trying to see what it is. The mechanics aren't even looking at anything at the moment. Just getting ready to push the car away. So, hopefully we'll grab a word with Riccardo fairly soon. See what the problem was.
So, if the race finishes like it is at the moment, the 2 gainers are going to be, of course, Schumacher and Berger, who will jump right up in their points position. One guy, of course, who really could have done with some more points is Ayrton Senna, who will score no points.
We will have a great battle for second place in this championship. Patrese, Senna, Schumacher, Berger will be right there. Alesi will move up and be close. Martin Brundle will move up into the battle. This is going to be a really interesting second half of the Grand Prix season this year. Michael Schumacher flashes across the start-finish line. There's his teammate. Both cars. That's Brundle's machine.
Wings covered in oil, the helmets covered in oil.
Now, here are the victors thus far in 1992. As you can see, Mansell with that run of 5 straight, a record for season-opening winning streaks in Grand Prix racing. Then Ayrton Senna in Monaco, and we will have another new winner here today.
And I'm certainly not going to predict at this stage who it's going to be, the way they're dropping out. It could be Alesi yet, and the Ferrari. He's up to 4th now. Wendlinger is 5th. They must be just ecstatic in that March pit.
There you see Berger, who had that savage accident I talked about and won in a Grand Prix car at Imola in the Ferrari a few years ago. The crash-worthiness of high-speed racing cars has come under intense scrutiny, and now Martin Brundle has pulled off in the Benetton. Oh, my.
Martin Brundle's run of bad luck.
That's from Schumacher. Now here's the view from Brundle's car, and he pounds the dashboard. Martin Brundle desperately needed points, but he will not get them today, and that will move Schumacher into second place behind Berger. Alesi will be third in line for the podium, but after the attrition we've seen thus far today, don't count him out. Then Wendlinger and Katayama. Let's get down to Andrew for more.
Yes, well, the Riccardo Patrese problem appears to be in the gearbox, definitely not the engine. The team is still having discussions about the particular problem, but they think it's in the gearbox. Back to you, Bob.
Well, Berger, Brundle, who is out. That makes it Berger, Schumacher, Alesi, Wendlinger, Ukio Katayama scoring points. Been a long time since a Japanese driver has done that. Once again, you see Martin Brundle pounding the dashboard in frustration, and well he might.
Trying to find one of those gaps in the rail, which he's just found. There's Michele Alboreto about to be lapped by Gerhard Berger in the McLaren. Two cars are just a bit confusing with their colour scheme, the footwork car of Alboreto. Alboreto, of course, has got more points this year than he's ever had before. And if the race goes on like this, he's going to be in the points.
The gap is 8.1 seconds. First to second, Berger to Schumacher, then 20 seconds back to Jean Alesi, and another 6 seconds to Carl Wendlinger. So things are stringing out here at the Grand Prix of Canada. We'll be back for more in just a moment. Tyrrell of Andrea de Cesaris making his way around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve on the Ile Notre Dame in Montreal, Canada. Bob Barsha and David Hobbs with you for the Grand Prix of Canada. Right now, de Cesaris runs in the 6th and final points-paying position. Listen to this leaderboard. Gerhard Berger, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, Carl Wendlinger, Ukio Katayama, and Andrea de Cesaris.
We haven't seen a board as disparate as that for a long time, and it could be that Michael Schumacher will have his first, or career first win here. The way it's been going the last few laps, I wouldn't want to say anything.
Both Williams cars are out of the race, including that of points leader Nigel Mansell. Let's get more on the Williams story now with Andrew Marriott on the pit lane.
I'm with the team manager at Williams, Peter Windsor. Peter, firstly, what happened to Ricciardo? Was it a gearbox failure?
Yes, that's right, Andrew. It was a gearbox. He lost 4th, 5th and 6th gears, unfortunately. In a really good position to win the race, I believe. So very bad luck for him.
Now, we saw Nigel storm up to the steward's room. What was the problem with Nigel? Was he going to protest? Is he allowed to protest?
Nigel wanted to go up there just to give his side of the story and to make it clear to the stewards what actually happened. And I was there to see what evidence the stewards had managed to get.
And what evidence was there?
Very little, I'm afraid to say. The television report was not there, and they were waiting for an observer's report from the corner.
How did you read it personally, Peter?
Well, obviously, Nigel says that it was, he was just run off the road, so I can only repeat what he said.
He was run off the road by Ayrton Senna. I'm very unhappy. Peter, bad day for Williams. We're going to have some more good ones.
Thank you very much.
Both Williams cars are out. We will have a shake-up in the points, although positions will not change. They will certainly tighten up in the run for the Formula One World Championship. There's Jean Alesi in that Ferrari doing his best
to get around Pierluigi Martini, also with a Ferrari engine car.
There are the points leaders in order, and you can see how they're faring thus far today. Mansell out, Patrese out, Schumacher runs second, Ayrton Senna out, Gerhard Berger is leading, Jean Alesi is third. The last time a driver won his first race, last time we had a first-time winner, I'll get this out, bear with me, was Japan in 1989, Sandro Nannini. Michael Schumacher might just win today in his 13th Grand Prix appearance on board with Jean Alesi.
Jean Alesi, you see his thumbs doing the downshifting there, his hands very high on the wheel, look at that, crossing right over. Now, you didn't see that, but his right hand would start to flick the upshift, of course. You'll see the difference in a moment when we go on board with Michael Schumacher, the difference between the two, what the two drivers have to do to shift gear. No doubt it won't be long before the Benetton car also goes to the semi-automatic, because it does save time, undoubtedly, over the 69 laps of a race. Probably saves as much as, could be as much as 5 to 10 seconds, depending how many corners and gear shifts there are.
There's our Suzuki race recap. Gerhard Berger, the leader, has led 13 of 50 laps. Had that one lead change, although Nigel Mansell briefly got into the lead before spinning off the racetrack. There goes Carl Wendlinger.
It's really 2 lead changes, isn't it?
Well, Nigel didn't complete the lap, so he wouldn't be technically a race leader. He got ahead on the racetrack for all of a second and a half. Here comes the March Ilmor of Carl Wendlinger, one of the rising stars of Formula One. Notice all of those decals all over the car. We're used to seeing that car absolutely pristine. They had very little, if any, sponsorship to speak of early this year, but they've come to Canada and really worked the telephones. They have got all sorts of small sponsorships. We understand that they are in line to get a larger one that will help them through the season. Just behind is Terry Boutsen, a proven winner in Formula One, struggling almost pathetically with the Ligier team. There goes Wendlinger.
Terribly disheartened is Terry Boutsen. Wendlinger, on the other hand, is running in 4th spot at the moment, and the way this race is going, there's no reason to say that he too couldn't win this race. He and Schumacher used to be teammates when they drove for the Mercedes-Benz sports car team. Both of them are come from relatively poor backgrounds. They both made it really by the sweat of their brow and skill. They really have. Very unusual in this day and age of racing, I can tell you.
There is the race leader, Gerhard Berger, with slower traffic ahead of him.
Gerhard Berger's pulled out another 3 seconds onto Michael Schumacher, who was catching him up.
We mentioned that both Lotus cars are out of the race after a sterling qualifying effort. Let's get down to the pit lane. Andrew has more on the Lotus cars.
Yeah, well, Mika Häkkinen's with me and Johnny Herbert also. What was the problem, Mika? Because the car was going so well.
You know, it was going really well. I was really surprised. The start went well. I was in a 7th place, catching Johnny, and I lost my 4th gear.
Big disappointment. You just couldn't use the other gears in the box?
No, I was going with, without 4th. Everything I have to select from 3rd to 5th. And that moment, when I didn't have a 4th, I think we both did the fastest lap on the track, and that's very encouraging.
Mika, well done. Johnny, Mika had a gearbox problem. Was it the same for you?
Yeah, well, I lost the clutch on about 20th lap. Then it was getting a bit sort of clunky getting into gear. Then eventually, I think the clutch or the gearbox went in the end.
I think you've proved today, haven't you, that Lotus are really back?
Yeah, I think so. You know, the car was handling absolutely fantastic. You know, out the back of the track, the car, we was actually probably pulling against everybody else. I know it was a bit of a train, but a bit later with the Benettons, we could nimble up on them. So, you know, it's so encouraging considering we've only done about 1 day of testing overall. I think the teams in front of us spending all that money they've got, you know, we've got sort of sixpence. So, you know, things are going well.
Johnny and Mika, thanks very much. 2 disappointed Lotus drivers, but they know great things are to come. Back to you, Bob.
And as you could see from the 2 of them, they get along very, very well. Johnny Herbert and Mika Häkkinen, that's a little bit unusual in Grand Prix racing, but they are 2 very close friends. And I agree with you, Andrew. Lotus is back, and it's going to make for a great second half of this year. There you see Michael Schumacher making his way around. He runs in 2nd place, looking to move up 1 more step on the podium in only his 13th Grand Prix. We'll give you the top 10. 15 cars remain in the running of the 26 that originally started the Grand Prix of Canada. Earning 3 stars in the Michelin Guide for its views, the tower above Olympic Stadium with its unique retractable roof, just one of the many unique sights in Montreal. Back at Canada, this is the battle for 7th place. Best battle on the racetrack right now. Young Eric Comas, the Formula 3000 graduate driving for Ligier, being attacked by one of the most experienced drivers in all of Formula One and a winner in Grand Prix racing, Michele Alboreto, in the footwork with Mugen-tuned Honda power. Ooh, looking up the outside was Michele. Not a good move at that part of the racetrack.
Boy, rather him than me there.
Here is the running order after 55 laps. We'll give you the full field. The cars still making their way around this 2.75-mile racetrack. 26 cars started the race. These are the survivors at this point. Coming up on 12 laps to go in the race. Michele Alboreto won this race in a Ferrari back in 1985. In the minds of many, the Pagliacci of Formula One. There you see Ayrton Senna finally making the long walk back to the garage area. We asked for an interview and he refused. He would not not even confirm or deny whether there was contact between him and Nigel Mansell at the final corner that knocked Mansell out of the race. Mansell furious with Senna. Senna will not respond here today. But he may have to sooner or later, because Nigel has gone to the officials to try to clarify the situation. Recall a year ago, there was lots of talk about different safety rules involved in Formula One, that there would be stop-and-go penalties for reckless driving. Drivers would be suspended from races. Hasn't been a lot of talk about that this year, but Nigel has asked the stewards of this meeting for a ruling on Ayrton's driving. Now Comas begins to pull away a little bit from Michele Alboreto. We saw Ivan Capelli in his Ferrari with a huge crash into the wall early in the race, just beyond where you see the race leader right now, Gerhard Berger. Crash worthiness of high-speed racing cars very much on everyone's mind following the crash fest at the Indianapolis 500 a few weeks ago. Andrew Marriott took a closer look at Formula One's approach to the safety issue, particularly the footbox of modern cars. Here's his report in the Track Back.
I'm with the new Fon-Metal Formula One car, the newest car in Grand Prix racing. But it does very well illustrate the footwell regulations, which are so different in Formula One compared with IndyCar racing. Well, this is an interesting point at the moment, following all those bad crashes at the Indianapolis. Formula One regulations say that the driver's feet must be behind the center line of the front axle. You look down inside the cockpit here, you can see the pedals are in fact well back. Totally different in IndyCar racing. In IndyCar racing, a driver's feet are somewhere out here. Also, you'll note there's a lot of space inside the cockpit. Inside the cockpit, there is enough space for a driver to pull his knees up if he thinks he's going into a barrier. So, I think that the CART officials ought to have a very close look at Formula One regulations regarding this very important footwell area.
All right, thank you, Andrew. You're riding with Michael Schumacher. 10 laps remain of the 69 in the Grand Prix of Canada. Schumacher running in his best position ever, second place. Here's another look at what happened just a moment ago as he was trying to drive around one of the March cars.
I think that's Paul Belmondo, who, of course, is relatively inexperienced in Formula One racing. Schumacher letting him know his displeasure. And again, that car of Schumacher's absolutely, just look at it, covered in oil and dust and everything else.
He gave up some ground. He is now 7.5 seconds behind the race leader, Gerhard Berger. Lots of action still to come from the Grand Prix of Canada. Back on board with Michael Schumacher of Germany, driving down the riverside of the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. As we get into the closing laps of the Grand Prix of Canada, Schumacher runs second to Gerhard Berger after the two previous race leaders, Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell, dropped out of the race. 4 cars remain on the lead lap. 15 cars remain in the race. You're on board now with John Alesi in the Ferrari.
John Alesi, who of course is 38 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. Just gives you some idea of how effective that Benetton V8 engine car is of Michael Schumacher, running in a good solid second spot, only 9 seconds behind Berger. If Berger makes any sort of a mistake or has any sort of a trouble, Schumacher is poised, ready to take the place. There we see again on board with Schumacher through that very fast S, coming down to the chicane, which caused so much problem earlier on with Nigel Mansell and Ayrton Senna, as he swings out along pit straight. Big crowd here today. Beautiful weather. It's the first time we've had a decent race day here weather-wise for 2 or 3 years.
It's been just about a sellout, and ticket prices ranging from $15 for a general admission ticket on Friday for first qualifying. You see Schumacher going underneath Christian Fittipaldi in the Minardi, up to a high of about $220 for a good grandstand seat, and those prices are 20% down from a year ago.
And they say they're going to reduce them more next year. There's 2 young drivers there, and of course yesterday there was another race here, the Toyota Atlantic Championship, won by Chris Smith out of California, beat another Californian, Steve Cameron, and a local lad, Patrick Carpentier, came 3rd. And of course the headlines in the papers here in town were all about him. There you see, that's Alboreto still trying to get around Eric Comas. Pretty important for him to do that, because they are running in 7th and 8th spot. You can get round him into 7th. He might be able to chisel away. They're only 5 seconds behind the Cheshire for that final point.
It's always in the nature of racing. We may bemoan the fact that the guys battling for the World Championship are out of this race, but the points picked up by the guys who take their places will mean a lot to their teams. Gerhard Berger winning an honest victory after the sham last year in Japan when Ayrton Senna simply moved aside to let his teammate win once Senna's 3rd World Championship had been clinched. Schumacher, in only his 13th Grand Prix race, will be up to the 2nd step on the podium. He's had an absolutely spectacular career thus far. It's just a matter of time before he wins that first Grand Prix race. Jean Alesi, boy, did Ferrari need a podium. That will certainly help the efforts of that team.
Niki Lauda's here with them again in his sort of new job as an advisor to the team, working with his old team manager, Montemazzolo, who's now trying to reorganize that effort. When I spoke to him the other day, I said, how's it going? He said, backwards. So he said, next year, we'll be all right next year. So it looked pretty chipper when you and I spoke to him, didn't he? And sort of very up on the world. His airline's doing well. But the Ferrari car is not doing as well as these guys. The McLaren Honda, once again, getting to the front end of this Grand Prix. They've got a long way to go yet to be absolutely competitive with the Williams, which were quite clearly quicker here this morning and yesterday afternoon, but certainly moving in the right direction. And Ron Dennis and his whole team, certainly not to be taken lightly.
Working lap number 63 complete this time around. There'll be 6 laps to go. Niki Lauda also confirmed for us that their new technical director, Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, is working on a new design for the team, but it won't be here until next season. They asked him if it will be better. Niki smiled ruefully and said, it better be. Yeah.
What else did he say?
Across the start-finish line goes Austrian Gerhard Berger. One of the many bachelors in Formula One. A man who very much enjoys life.
Oh, that's Katayama.
Oh, what a break for the Japanese driver. Ukio Katayama was running in 5th place. Whoops. Now he's got a real oil fire going there.
Oh, so that's very disappointing for him, but makes that race between Comas and Alboreto absolutely crucial now, because that moves them up to 6th and 7th. So if Alboreto can get around Comas, there we see the car of Katayama.
And you saw the body English from Katayama, who threw his hands on the dashboard into spare, hoping to become the 3rd. Ooh, boy, that was a comprehensive engine meltdown. Hoping to become the 3rd Japanese driver to score points in Formula One. Pulled into the weigh-in area. I think he sensed what was going on behind him.
The Japanese are absolutely fanatical about Formula One, and if you go there, you just can't believe the interest. The magazines, the special interest magazines, the amount of TV time they give it is just quite extraordinary.
As we watch the pit lane, let's get down to the pit lane and Andrew Marriott.
Well, Henny Vollenberg, here's the happiest man in the pits at the moment. Your heart must be in your mouth because you're the smallest team in Formula One and you're 4th.
I cannot understand you very well, but what was your question?
You must be very happy.
Yes, we are very happy that he's on the 4th place at the moment. It's the best what he can do at this moment.
Do you know if there are any problems with the car, or is it running perfectly?
The car is running perfectly. It's taking only a little bit speed down for the best fuel consumption. It's leading over 20 seconds. There's no problem at all.
Good. Well, that man with his heart in his mouth, he just hopes that car's going to finish. It's going to mean so much to March. Back to you, Bob.
And of course, so disappointing for Katayama to be out of this race at such a late stage when you can almost see the flag. But of course, nothing to the disappointment that it must have been for Mansell last year on the very, very last lap, as you said at the top of the show. 15 seconds to go and you won the race, and the engine stopped.
Stopped indeed. Electronic glitch. See more of that cottonwood stuff flowing across the racetrack. Incredibly dirty rear wing and helmet visor and nose on this new Benetton Ford. Michael Schumacher runs 2nd, 9.9 seconds behind the leader, so he is dropping back. Schumacher apparently will not be a threat to Gerhard Berger as we're into the last few laps of the Grand Prix of Canada. Here's a look at McGill University, founded in 1829 by Canadian businessman James McGill. One of the world's great universities, wonderful Gothic architecture, certainly one of the world's most beautiful schools. We'll be back for the closing laps of the Formula One Grand Prix of Canada. On board with Michael Schumacher in the closing laps of the Grand Prix of Canada. The 14th year that the Formula One series has stopped in Montreal in Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. This is a track that the late Gilles Villeneuve made his personal stage on many occasions. Won his first Formula One race here, as this man, Michael Schumacher, might well have done today. We've had tremendous attrition.
He might still win it. The way the race has gone so far, he could easily win the race at this stage. Here we see Carl Wendlinger. That's the car we've just been talking about, to the owner. He's coming up on Christian Fittipaldi. A lot of young, basically rookie drivers in this race, all of them doing very well. Christian Fittipaldi's father is always with him, Wilson, who is obviously Emerson Fittipaldi's brother. So therefore he's Christian's uncle. Would like to do well here in North America, which of course is what made that winner Chris Smith so important yesterday, to win a race like an Atlantic Championship in front of all these team managers.
There you see Carl Wendlinger, as David mentioned earlier, a former sports car teammate to Michael Schumacher. Wendlinger raced this circuit once before, with 3 laps remaining now in this race. Wendlinger drove for the Mercedes sports car team here in the one race they held on the circuit Gilles Villeneuve before they stopped racing in Montreal. At that point, the Mercedes team was alternating their junior drivers. It was Wendlinger's turn to drive. He drove here. Schumacher did not. So Schumacher is seeing the track for the first time today. He runs second in the race. Wendlinger is back in the 4th spot.
Of course, that is one of the amazing things about Schumacher, is that pretty well everywhere he's been this year, he's never been before. Including Monte Carlo, where he had that incredibly storming 4th spot. Now, this is the race of the day. This is Eric Comas, who's running in 6th, and he needs that point like they need oxygen, because they are the guys who are going to get relegated to the Friday morning pre-qualifying if they don't win a point between now and Silverstone, which is only 2 more races. He wants that point desperately, and right behind him is Michele Alboreto in the footwork. They need the points too. So this is a very, very important race for 6th and final point.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Formula One qualifying procedures, 4 cars go into a pre-qualifying race on Friday morning. Not a race, really, but a session. The cars that advance from that go into the regular session and compete for the 26 spots in the starting field. You desperately want to be out of pre-qualifying. The way you do that is by being among the best performing teams in the first half of the season. We'll know more when we get to Silverstone to begin the second half of the season with the Grand Prix of Great Britain here on ESPN. Let's get down to the pit lane for a final report from Andrew Marriott regarding Ukio Katayama.
Yes, that dream drive for Katayama ended apparently when he missed the gear, over-revved the engine, and it blew up spectacularly. There's oil all under the car. Also, Katayama's in a lot of pain. His arm, he just can't move his arm. He's just had to have his overalls peeled off for him, and he was wincing like mad. He really is a lot of pain, Katayama, but bad luck for him. Back to you, Bob.
Driving these cars can be a very, very painful experience. If anything's just a little bit wrong or pressing in just the wrong place, it can just give you an absolute jip. There we see Christian Fittipaldi, one of the young lions, out of the race.
He believes his car's on fire, doesn't want to trust the local firemen. Christian, I think they might be a little better trained at that. Ah, well.
Jerry Berger on the way to, as you say, his first proper win since he won in Japan last year, which of course was handed to him on a plate by Senna. Senna out of the race today. Nigel Mansell out of the race. 1 lap to go.
We are on the final lap. There you see the statistics on Gerhard Berger, his first race in his native Austria at one of my favorite racetracks, the Österreich Ring. A terrific racetrack. Hopefully Formula One will be back there someday. Berger has fast lap of the race at this point, 1 minute 22.325 seconds, set on lap 61. So everything is going his way at this point. 3 cars remain on the lead lap: Berger, Schumacher, and Alesi.
Somebody's engine sounding very, very dodgy outside the booth here as they go away. That fastest lap of his, I think, must be new lap record as well.
Once again, down the riverside, as opposed to the canal side of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and the rowing basin, where the Formula One mechanics each year hold a boat race. Not your average boat race, though. You must build your own boat, and you must build it out of the materials available in your garage. It was won this year for the 2nd straight year by the Jordan Yamaha team.
It is a new lap record by 0.003 of a second over last year.
Still goes into the books. There's the 2nd place car, Michael Schumacher in the Benetton Ford. His best finish ever in Formula One appears to be in store. Behind them, it is Jean Alesi, then Carl Wendlinger, Andrea De Cesaris in 5th, Eric Comas in that 6th spot, unless Michele Alboreto can get him, and time is running out. Then Pierluigi Martini, J.J. Leto, Terry Boutsen, checkered flag for Gerhard Berger, and well earned. years ago, Gerhard Berger was adjudged to have jumped the start. As you see the second-place car of Michael Schumacher, fist pumping the air as he slides to the pit wall and close to his team. Berger was judged to have jumped the start and was sent back in the field. He was the fastest car on the track, finished the race in the lowest elapsed time, but only finished 4th, so he had a point to make here in Canada as well. The margin of victory unofficially 10.6 seconds, and the McLaren Honda team is back on top. There you see Jean Alesi, the third-place car. As David would say, they need points like they need oxygen with the Ferrari crew, and they're going to get some more today. 10 points for first, 6 for second, 4 for third, 3 for fourth, 2 for fifth, and 1 for sixth.
Alesi coming up to the last corner, the very controversial corner where Senna and Nigel had their, what we think was a bumping match, in which Nigel came off worst. Of course, we don't know. That car, you know, you saw that left front tyre on Nigel's car had a mark on it. Maybe it had bent the suspension. You don't know.
Well, the arguments will continue long into the future. Let's get down now and meet a member of Gerhard Berger's team with Andrew.
Well, Ron Dennis, congratulations, 2 in a row.
It's 2 in a row the hard way. It's great for Gerhard. It's his first win for the team, and it's been a long time coming, and hopefully we can continue the trend.
Disappointment with Ayrton, of course. What happened there?
As far as we can tell, we had an electronics problem that was disrupting the synchronization between the throttle and the gearbox. We managed to fix it for a period of time by changing something on the car, but unfortunately, ultimately it failed.
We say it's Gerhard's first win, but what about Japan last year? Well, he was handed that one, wasn't he?
This is a real win.
Now, Nigel Mansell came to you, and he wasn't a happy camper, was he?
I think any driver in those circumstances is a bit hot, and it's understandable. I think he made a mistake, and that's motor racing.
Ron, your car's coming in. Go and congratulate Gerhard, and well done.
Ron Dennis is right. This is a real win for Gerhard Berger. I'm sure he would be the first to admit it himself. And he'll get a chance in just a moment. There are your unofficial results. We'll be back to Canada. Gerhard Berger moments ago taking off the helmet and balaclava. You heard his team manager Ron Dennis tell us this was Gerhard's first true victory for the McLaren team. It's been a great day for a lot of drivers we don't often get to talk to here in Formula One. Here's Andrew Marriott with one of them.
Carl, what a day for Austria. Good. Gerhard won and you finished 4th. Sensational.
It was absolutely brilliant for us, I think, this race, because I mean we needed the points to get out of the pre-qualification, and we need the traveler costs and everything, and the car was just good in the beginning. I was catching up a little bit with Alesi, and then I got some gearbox problems, so I slowed down. I was very gently on the gearbox, and that's why the lap times got a little bit slower. But everything under control, the guys are behind me, and so I just try to finish the race.
Thanks very much. Well done.
And there is the podium. 3 men with their best finishes of the year. Victory for Gerhard Berger. 2nd place, Michael Schumacher. 3rd place, Jean Alesi. Great race, David.
It was absolutely tremendous. Jean Alesi, our showdown, is just a little bit lucky. Feels he's a little bit lucky. The Ferrari hasn't been going well, and attrition really brought him up there. But Schumacher just drove brilliantly the whole race.
Let's take another look now at the most controversial moment in this race. Far in the distance from Michael Schumacher's car, Nigel Mansell made his bid for the lead. He alleges he was bumped from behind by Ayrton Senna. You can see the dust as he went off into the gravel, spun the car around. You'll see him just ahead of Schumacher's car as he comes off the corner onto the front straightaway. Just ahead, Gerhard Berger launched himself past Riccardo Patrese into 2nd place. Patrese and Ayrton Senna right there would later drop out. Senna will have to wonder what might have been. He won at Monaco. Another victory here certainly would have helped him. Here are our official results for the top 5. Berger, Schumacher, Alesi, Wendlinger, De Cesaris, and Comas. We'll be right back. The time is nearly here to bid fond adieu to old Montreal and wish this great city a happy 350th anniversary until we meet again in 1993. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Formula One Grand Prix of Canada has been brought to you by Acura Automobiles. Experience precision crafted performance. And by Suzuki. Your Suzuki dealer has the ride you've been waiting for and the financing to get it. The post-race celebrations continue here in Montreal. Here's a look at our official results. Gerhard Berger by 12.4 seconds over Michael Schumacher and Jean Alesi. 1 lap down, Wendlinger, De Cesaris, Comas, Alboreto, Martini, and Leto. Boutsen, Morbidelli, and Griard 2 laps down. Here's Andrew.
Well, Gerhard, what a reception for you. Must be delighted with today, and what a day for Austria.
Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, I'm very, very happy. It was, I think I deserve it. I worked very hard the last years, and slowly I get progressed, and I think I did no mistake today, and the car went well, except I had a little bit of a gearbox problem. And so I could manage to...
Well, we're in the middle of an interview, lady.
Give me your hat, please.
No,
well, you see what it's like down here. That's a fan for you.
Yeah, very nice. And I'm really very, very happy today, and especially for my mechanics. I mean, they are working now 3 years for me.
Did you see the Mansell Senna incident?
Yeah, I saw it. I was just behind, and I mean, I didn't see it in the details, but I know what's going on. I honestly, I won't drive to overtake Patrese on the same place, but I didn't do it in the end because I know if I have to go on the dirty side, it will going to be really difficult.
A Mansell mistake, you'd say?
No, I don't want to say. It's not for me. It's not to decide who did a mistake. I mean, and even I couldn't do it because I couldn't see. I just want to say that this was a place where you won't try. I didn't do it because I say we're going to be dirty, we're going to be difficult. Nigel takes the risk. I don't know exactly what's happened. I didn't see it in the details, and I don't know who did a mistake, and even it was a mistake or not.
A word about Karl Wendlinger. What a drive from him, fourth.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I mean, I didn't see the drive. I didn't know how many cars finished, but we all know that he is a good driver, and he will gonna make a lot of progress in the next years.
Thanks very much, and congratulations. Great drive.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Gerhard. Here are the driver points. Mansell and Patrese score none. Schumacher now with 26. Senna and Berger tied with 18. Jean Alesi with 11. In the manufacturers' battle, Williams-Renault stays on 84. A big lead over McLaren, Honda, and Benetton Ford. Don't forget Checkered Flag. Reviewing the Grand Prix of Canada comes your way Saturday, June 20th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The next stop, we will wrap up the first half of the Formula One season with the Grand Prix of France from Magny-Cours. Congratulations to Gerhard Berger and all of our drivers. Best race of the season. Certainly sets up a great title run in 1992. I'm Bob Barsha for David Hobbs and Andrew Marriott. So long from Montreal, Canada.